You relax, you will get what you want. Not because you fight, strive, or wrestle with life, but because you let go of the illusion that you must control everything in order to receive anything. You see, the game of existence is not won by pushing harder, but by understanding that the very act of striving too intensely for something often ensures it remains just out of reach. When you plant a seed, you don't sit next to it all day screaming at it to grow. You water it, give it light, and then you wait. And what is waiting, really? It is a form of trust. A quiet knowing that life has its rhythm, its intelligence, and its timing. But we, in our frantic little minds, are taught to believe that unless we are constantly doing something, fixing, planning, adjusting, worrying, we will fall behind, or worse, be forgotten. But who exactly do you think is keeping score? There is no cosmic scoreboard tallying up your stress and awarding you points for suffering. The universe does not respond to how tightly you can clench your fists. It listens to the frequency of your being. When you are relaxed, when you are at ease, when you are not desperately demanding but softly expecting, you are in harmony with the very structure of life itself. Think of this. The sun does not rise because it is ordered to. The birds do not sing because they are paid to. They simply do what they are, effortlessly. And perhaps the greatest tragedy of our time is that we've forgotten how to be effortless. We have confused stillness with laziness, silence with weakness, and relaxation with giving up. But relaxation is not surrendering to defeat. It is surrendering to wisdom. It is recognizing that your anxious need to control everything is precisely what blocks the very things you want from arriving. You don't need to chase love, because love blooms where presence dwells. You don't need to beg for abundance, because abundance is attracted to peace. And you don't need to force success. Relaxation is a doorway. True success finds the one who is already aligned with their truth. It does not demand you kick it down. It only asks you to turn the handle gently and step through. When you relax, your mind becomes open to inspiration rather than desperation. Your vision becomes clearer because it is no longer clouded by fear. And your life becomes lighter, not because you carry less, but because you finally understand what is worth carrying. The irony is this: when you stop needing it so badly, that's when it shows up, not as a reward for your worry, but as a reflection of your trust. To breathe. You're not behind, you're not late, you're not forgotten. You're simply being reminded by life, by this moment, by the silence between your thoughts, that your only real job is to return to the place within you that already believes you're worthy of having what you desire. And from there, all things unfold. The more you chase, the more it runs. This is one of the strangest truths we often learn too late. Life seems to have a peculiar way of hiding what we desperately seek. You run after love and it slips away. You reach for success and it evades you. You crave approval and yet it remains distant. Why? Because the act of chasing is born out of lack. It carries the vibration of not having. And when you declare through your actions and thoughts that you do not have something, the world around you simply echoes that belief back to you. We are told to go after our dreams, to grind, to hustle, to never stop. But rarely are we told to pause, to breathe, to trust. We are conditioned to believe that effort equals result, and that the harder we try, the faster we'll get there. But this is not how the deeper laws of reality function. The deeper truth is this: the more frantic the chase, the more distance you create between yourself and the thing you desire. The very energy of chasing carries within it the message that what you want is not here. And so reality, always listening, always reflecting, gives you more of that distance. Imagine running after a butterfly in a field. You charge at it, waving your arms, desperate to catch it. The butterfly, of course, flies further away. But the moment you sit down quietly among the flowers, it may just come and rest upon your shoulder. The same is true for love, peace, success, and even money. When you act from a place of need, you unknowingly push what you want away. You become a repellent, not a magnet. Chasing is born of fear. Fear that if you don't act, you won't receive. But true receiving begins when fear dissolves and is replaced with calm expectation. There is a difference between inspired action and desperate striving. Inspired action flows. It comes from a space within you that already feels whole, already believes in the outcome. Desperate striving, on the other hand, is noisy and anxious. It operates on timelines, pressure, and comparison. And while it may produce some movement, it rarely brings the deep satisfaction you are seeking. It's like filling your lungs with shallow breaths. You are technically breathing, but you are not truly alive. In the same way, your frantic efforts may give the illusion of progress, but the soul remains unsatisfied. You have to realize that the chase is often driven by a story that says, I am not enough without this. That story creates urgency, and urgency creates resistance. When you're always running after something, you miss what is here. You miss the quiet beauty of becoming. You forget that perhaps the real magic happens in the stillness, not the struggle. The flower does not chase the sun. It simply blooms and trusts that the sun will find it. The river does not strive to reach the ocean. It just flows, and the current takes it there. What if the very act of stopping is the secret? What if peace is the magnet, and the frantic noise in your mind is the block? When you are quiet inside, when your thoughts are not soaked in need, you become receptive. You create space for what you want to enter. It is not that ambition is wrong. It is not that desire is evil. But when desire becomes obsession, and obsession becomes noise, you become deaf to the signals life is sending. And more importantly, you become blind to what is already working in your favor. Every time you chase from fear, you are telling the universe, I do not trust you. But life responds best to those who trust it. It gives generously to the one who waits with faith, who walks slowly but steadily, who doesn't panic when things don't appear instantly. Timing, after all, is part of the design. You wouldn't force a caterpillar to turn into a butterfly before its time, yet you constantly pressure your own dreams to bloom prematurely, and in doing so you sometimes damage what was already forming perfectly beneath the surface. Chasing is exhausting. It drains the spirit and fills the mind with anxious questions. What if I'm not enough? What if I don't make it? What if they never see my worth? But notice the pattern. These thoughts are always rooted in the future. They pull you out of the present, out of the now, where everything actually happens. When you chase, you abandon this moment. You trade the richness of now for a fantasy of someday. And the tragedy is, someday never arrives, because you're always living in pursuit, never in presence. You must understand that desire itself is not the issue. It is your relationship with desire that matters. When you want something from a state of inner calm, your desire becomes like a seed planted in rich soil. It grows without your interference. But when you want something from desperation, your hands constantly dig up the soil to check if it's sprouting. And in that constant digging, the seed never gets a chance to take root. Let it be. Let it grow. Let it come when it is ready. Ironically, the moment you stop chasing is often the moment it arrives. This is not because you gave up, but because you shifted your energy from fear to faith. You stopped pushing and started trusting. And in that shift, you aligned with the very nature of creation itself. You became the calm center instead of the desperate storm. And everything you were running after, peace, love, freedom, success, began running toward you. The more you chase, the more it runs, not because you are unworthy, but because life is gently trying to teach you to stop, to pause, to breathe, to receive. And in the art of receiving, you discover that everything you ever wanted was never far. It was simply waiting for you to stop running long enough to notice that it had been circling you all along. Stillness is alignment, not laziness. But we have been conditioned to believe otherwise. From an early age, we're told to keep moving, to stay busy, to always be doing something. Productivity becomes a badge of honor, while stillness is looked upon with suspicion. If you're not hustling, grinding, climbing, or striving, people assume you're wasting your time. But what if the most powerful transformation happens not when you're chasing life, but when you're sitting quietly with it? What if stillness is not the absence of action, but the presence of awareness? You see, stillness is misunderstood. It is not apathy, it is not resignation, it is not giving up. It is entering into the rhythm of life without disturbing it. It is the quiet tuning of your being into harmony with what is. The world is noisy, but your soul is not. The world shouts timelines, expectations, obligations, but your soul whispers, waits, and watches. And when you finally allow yourself to sit in that space of stillness, you stop acting from fear and begin acting from truth. In stillness, you are no longer reacting to life. You are co-creating with it. You are not pushing against the current. You are flowing with it. Most people are tired not because they do too much, but because they do too much from misalignment. They do and do and do, but none of it emerges from peace. Their actions come from panic, from the belief that if I don't force it, it won't happen. But that belief is an illusion. It is the root of exhaustion. Stillness, on the other hand, is powerful because it aligns you with the current of the universe. It positions you to act only when action is necessary, only when it's inspired. There's no wasted movement, no wasted energy. You do less, but everything you do matters more. The oak tree does not grow by effort. It grows by surrendering to its nature. Stillness allows you to remember your nature. It peels away the layers of noise, doubt, and distraction, and reveals the deep truth of who you are and what you're here to do. When you act from this clarity, life bends to meet you. Opportunities that felt far away begin to show up. People begin to notice something different about you. Not your clothes, your skills, or your voice, but your presence. Stillness gives birth to presence, and presence is magnetic. There's a reason why the most powerful people in a room often say the least. They do not need to speak loudly to be heard. Their stillness carries weight. It is the same with your energy. When you stop over-explaining, over-apologizing, over-performing, when you simply exist in a state of peace, you invite people, situations, and blessings into your life that were repelled by your previous restlessness. Not because you tried harder, but because you stopped trying and started being. Stillness is not waiting around doing nothing. It is a deeply active space where the inner world comes alive. It is in stillness that your intuition speaks. It is in stillness that clarity finds you. It is in stillness that you discover whether what you're chasing even belongs to you. So many people run toward things they don't need, only to find emptiness at the end of their effort. But the one who learns to sit in silence discovers richness before movement. They act only when the inner compass points true north. There's an intelligence in stillness, a wisdom that is easily drowned out by noise. Most people live in reaction. They react to fear, to opinions, to news, to timelines. They are puppets pulled by the strings of panic. But in stillness, you cut the strings. You move deliberately. You act with awareness. There is no longer a need to prove or perform. You have nothing to chase because you have nothing to fear. And in that energy, you become a magnet for everything you once thought you had to beg for. Stillness is also healing. It softens the mind and repairs the soul. When you are still, the pain you've been avoiding rises to the surface, and though it may feel uncomfortable, it is necessary. In the space of silence, you begin to process, release, and transform. That's why so many people avoid stillness, because it requires them to face themselves. But the only way to rise is to look inward. The only way to evolve is to confront the noise within, not with more noise, but with the silence that reveals truth. Look at nature. The most profound events happen in quiet. The roots grow in silence, the seasons shift without announcement, the stars move through the sky without a sound. So why do you believe your transformation must be loud, visible, and busy? Why do you think the path to your desire must be crowded with effort and urgency? Real change is subtle. It happens in stillness. It takes root before it is seen. You don't have to shout to be heard by the universe. A quiet belief, deeply held, is louder than 1,000 declarations. In stillness, you also become receptive. Life becomes less about your plans and more about your openness. You begin to listen not just to others, but to yourself. You realize that much of your suffering came from ignoring your inner voice. And when you hear it again, when you feel that gentle nudge, you begin to trust it more than the outside noise. This trust becomes your guide. It tells you when to move and when to wait, when to speak and when to remain silent. Stillness is not absence, it is presence. Full, deep, awakened presence. And presence is not passive, it is attentive, alert, alive. In stillness, you become aware of the divine timing of all things. You stop demanding that life move at your pace and start flowing with the pace of life. You stop measuring your worth by your productivity and start experiencing your power in your peace. You stop seeking and start allowing. There is nothing lazy about stillness. In fact, it may be the most courageous act in a world that runs on fear, to sit, to breathe, to trust, to wait. Not because you have no ambition, but because your ambition is no longer rooted in lack. This is strength. This is alignment. And it is from this alignment that the universe delivers its most beautiful gifts. Not when you chase them, but when you become still enough to finally receive them. Trust the natural rhythm of life. It has its own pulse, its own flow, its own wisdom that cannot be dictated by the urgency of your mind. The mind wants everything now. It is impatient, restless, always seeking proof that it's not being left behind. But life does not work according to the frantic pace of human expectation. It unfolds like a wave, like a tree growing toward the sun, like the breath that rises and falls without your command. You don't force your heartbeat. You don't control your dreams. And yet you still live, still breathe, still wake up every morning under a sky you didn't build. There is a greater rhythm guiding all things. And your task is not to fight it, but to fall into it. It is so tempting to try and accelerate everything. You set goals and deadlines, you compare timelines, and you convince yourself that if things don't happen in a specific way or by a specific date, then something is wrong. You assume delay means denial. You assume silence means abandonment. But what if it doesn't? What if delay is just timing in disguise? What if silence is the space where life rearranges itself so it can meet you in a more perfect way? What if everything you thought was late was actually early, in a timeline you don't yet understand. There is a season to all things. The earth teaches this in every rotation. There is a time to plant and a time to harvest, a time to be still and a time to move, a time to let go and a time to receive. But we have been taught to reject the cycle. We want spring in the dead of winter. We want blossoms without roots. But forcing a tree to bear fruit out of season does not make it stronger. It destroys it. And the same is true for you. When you try to force life to deliver something before you are ready to receive it, you sabotage the very blessing you're asking for. There is a rhythm to your growth. You may not see it, but it is happening. You are not the same person you were a year ago, not even the same person you were a week ago. And that subtle shift, though quiet, is a signal that the tide is turning. But to witness the full transformation, you must be patient. You must resist the urge to dig up the seed just to check if it's growing. Trust that it is. Trust that life knows what it's doing with you, that there's a reason things are taking the shape they're taking. The mind craves control. It wants to know the plan, see the map, and predict the outcome. But the soul speaks in trust. It doesn't need to know where the road ends to enjoy the walk. It simply breathes, listens, observes, and allows. It doesn't panic when things go quiet. It understands that some of the most important changes happen in silence. In fact, silence is often the birthplace of transformation. Just as the cocoon seems lifeless before the butterfly emerges, so too your life may appear still just before it begins to bloom. When you trust the rhythm of life, you begin to let go of comparison. You stop looking at others and wondering why they have what you don't. You stop asking why your journey looks different. You understand that every soul is moving through its own unique song. No two melodies are the same. You wouldn't rush a symphony just to reach the final note. The beauty is in the unfolding, and your life, too, is a composition, full of highs and lows, quiet pauses and loud crescendos. Every moment matters. Every note has a purpose. It is in trusting this rhythm that peace returns. You don't need to force doors open when they are not meant for you. You don't need to chase things that belong to someone else. You only need to listen to the beat of your own path. That rhythm will tell you when to act and when to wait. It will tell you when to speak and when to stay silent, when to leap and when to ground yourself. But you can't hear that rhythm when your life is full of noise, external demands, internal doubts, distractions that pull you away from your own inner knowing. The reason so many people feel lost is not because they've lost their path, but because they've stopped listening. They've tuned out the rhythm. They've abandoned their intuition for the approval of the crowd. But your rhythm doesn't come from the crowd. It doesn't come from the world. It comes from within. And it is always there, waiting to be felt again, waiting for you to slow down, to breathe, to tune in. And when you do, everything begins to make sense. Not all at once, but in the quiet way that dawn makes sense to the night. There is a strange paradox in trusting life. You have to be active, yet surrendered. You have to dream boldly, yet let go of how it will happen. You have to walk forward, but also know when to pause. And that balance cannot be taught by books or gurus. It can only be felt. It can only be lived. It is an art, not a science. And like all art, it requires your full presence. Just the willingness to show up and say, I trust that even when I don't understand, something beautiful is forming. Sometimes the rhythm of life asks you to rest, to be still, to do nothing for a while, not because you've failed, but because something inside you is being rebuilt. And other times it calls you into motion, even when you feel afraid. It nudges you to step forward without knowing what's next. That's the rhythm at work. It guides, it pulls, it rearranges. But it never leaves you, not once. And when you begin to trust it, truly trust it, you'll find a calm beneath the surface of your being that no circumstance can shake. Trusting the rhythm of life is not about becoming passive. It's about becoming attuned. It's not about waiting around, hoping for miracles. It's about recognizing that every breath, every pause, every quiet moment is part of the miracle already underway. You don't need to panic to prove that you care. You don't need to fight to show that you're committed. Sometimes the greatest act of faith is simply to wait, not with frustration, but with quiet assurance. But because you listened, it depends at the very osity. You know what to do, not with frustration, but because you listen. Let go of control to let in what you desire. This is perhaps one of the most difficult truths to embrace, especially in a world that worships certainty, dominance, and direction. You're told from the earliest days that you must take control of your life, steer the wheel, map every turn, plan every step. And so you do. You tighten your grip. You hold on to expectations, to outcomes, to timelines. You believe that if you just try harder, push more, and worry long enough, you will bend reality into submission. But what actually happens is the opposite. The tighter you grip, the more things slip through your fingers. The more you try to force life to behave, the more chaotic it becomes. You see, control is rooted in fear. It is the mind's way of protecting itself against the unknown. And yet, the unknown is not the enemy. It is the space where all new things are born. You cannot manifest something truly meaningful while fearing the very uncertainty in which that manifestation must form. Letting go of control is not giving up, it is giving permission to life, to the flow, to the rhythm of your being. It is saying, I trust you. I don't need to orchestrate every moment, every detail, every outcome. I am willing to receive something greater than what I could have ever planned. The paradox is that the more you try to control the outcome, the more resistance you create. Imagine water. You don't command it to move, it simply flows. But place your hand in a rushing stream and try to hold on to the water and it escapes you. Yet if you cup your hands loosely, gently, the water rests within them. That is the posture of allowing, of trust, of surrender. And that is how your desires want to enter your life. Not under pressure, not under force, but through openness. Most people do not realize how much they are blocking what they want by trying to control how it comes. They say they want love, but they cling to old stories, timelines, or types of people. They say they want success, but they demand it looks exactly like someone else's journey. They say they want peace, but they micromanage every detail of their day, suffocating the very stillness they seek. To let go of control means to release the how and the when, and stay focused on the what and the why. It means trusting that if a desire has been planted in your heart, then life has also designed a way for it to be fulfilled. Just not necessarily through your current understanding. Control feels safe. It gives you the illusion that you are protected from disappointment. But it's only an illusion. In truth, control creates more stress than safety. It demands constant vigilance, endless planning, and rigid thinking. And what happens when something unexpected enters? Panic, fear, resistance. But when you let go, when you embrace uncertainty with grace, the unknown becomes your ally. You begin to recognize that what you thought was a detour is actually direction. What you thought was loss is actually realignment. What you thought was a delay is actually divine preparation. Letting go is not something you do once. It is a daily practice, an ongoing unburdening of the need to know everything. It's waking up and saying, I don't need all the answers today. I just need to be present, open, and willing. It is the decision to trade anxiety for peace, chaos for clarity, resistance for trust. And in that space of surrender, the things you were chasing often find their way to you, not because you stopped caring, but because you stopped interfering. You stopped blocking the flow with your fear, and you allowed life to show up with its own wisdom. There is something profoundly humbling about letting go. It is a reminder that you are not the sole architect of your life. Yes, you have power. Yes, your thoughts and beliefs shape your experience, but there is also something greater at work. A mystery, a rhythm, a pulse that weaves through all things. And sometimes the best thing you can do is get out of the way. Stop trying to fix what isn't broken. Stop trying to rush what needs time. Stop trying to force a door that was never meant for you. When you release your grip, your hands are finally free to receive what was always meant to come. Letting go also requires trust. Not blind optimism, but deep inner knowing. A trust that says, even if I can't see it now, something good is unfolding. That doesn't mean everything will be easy or painless, but it does mean that you will not have to carry the unbearable weight of constant control. It means that when things shift or fall apart, you won't crumble with them. You'll bend, but not break, because you'll know that the falling away is part of the process, that what is removed makes room for what is meant. When you let go of control, you begin to live more in the present. You stop postponing your peace until something happens. You stop delaying your happiness until conditions are met. You realize that life is happening now, not in your plans, not in your memories, but in this very breath. And in this breath, you are safe. In this breath, you are connected to everything you need. And if you can find peace here, even before your desires have arrived, then you are already living the life you were chasing. It is not about abandoning dreams or giving up desires. It is about trusting the intelligence that placed those desires within you in the first place. You don't need to control the journey. You just need to stay aligned with the feeling of what you want and allow that feeling to guide your actions, not from desperation, but from inspiration. You don't need to grasp, cling, or prove. You just need to remain receptive. You just need to keep your heart. Have you ever noticed how the greatest things in life come to you not when you chase them, not when you obsess over them, but when you are still, when you let go? That life is a battlefield, that success is a war to make things happen. And so we strain, we push, we fight to make things happen. But in doing so, we disturb the very harmony that could have brought those things to us effortlessly. You are not here to chase. You are not here to stress. You are not here to mold the universe into your liking through force. You are here to remember that you and the universe are not separate. There is no line dividing you and the stars, no real difference between your breath and the wind. You are the wave in the ocean of existence. The same power that causes the sun to rise and the rivers to flow lives in you. If you are seeing this, it's not by accident. This moment, right here, right now, is a signal, a soft whisper from the universe reminding you that you are already part of the great unfolding. You don't need to panic. You don't need to control everything. The very idea that you must control is the illusion. The more you try to grasp, the more it slips through your fingers like water. The more you relax into being, the more you receive what you once thought you had to earn through sweat and pain. People are so afraid to do nothing. They say, if I stop running, I'll fall behind. But what if that race is the illusion? What if, behind all your goals and ambitions, your soul is asking you for one thing only: to surrender. not in defeat, but in wisdom. To understand that the universe is not a vending machine that needs to be pushed and shaken for results. It is a mirror, a sacred reflection of your own inner state. When you are anxious, you attract more reasons to be anxious. When you rest in trust, life begins to flow with you. You do not make the river flow faster by shouting at it. You let it carry you, and that's when you discover its power. There's a rhythm to all things. The tides come and go. The moon waxes and wanes. Trees do not bloom all year round. Yet humans try to bloom endlessly, force fruit in winter, and wonder why they feel empty. You are allowed to pause. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to breathe and do nothing. And in that stillness, the universe begins to align itself in ways your mind could never predict. It does not respond to your panic. It responds to your peace. We think we must make things happen. But when you look at a flower, you don't see it trying. You don't see it anxiously planning its next bloom or wondering how to impress the garden. It simply is. And in being itself, it draws everything it needs. The sunlight, the rain, the bees. What if your only job is to be who you are and let the universe meet you there? What if you are already worthy of receiving simply by being? You've been waiting for a sign. This is it. If you come across this message, take it as permission. Permission to trust. Permission to rest. Permission to let go of the clenched fists and the racing thoughts, and to finally breathe. Not because giving up is the answer, but because receiving often begins with relaxing, with surrendering the illusion of control, and letting life love you back. Close your eyes and feel that truth. Nothing you truly need will pass you by. Nothing meant for you will be taken. You do not have to scramble, nor beg, nor shout into the void. Just align with the knowing that you are not separate from the source of all things. You are that source, learning to remember itself. Relax. The universe has been waiting for you to stop resisting. Now that you have, everything is on its way. You are not separate from the universe. You are the universe experiencing itself through the form you call you. This is not poetic exaggeration. This is not a metaphor to comfort you in hard times. It is a truth so deep that it dismantles the illusion of control, struggle, and fear the moment you fully grasp it. You see, all your life you have been taught that you are a distinct, isolated entity. You were given a name, a history, a body, and a set of beliefs. And with that, you started building a wall between yourself and everything else. You began to believe that life was something happening to you, that you were here trying to survive a world that existed apart from your will. But the moment you step back and observe the truth beyond this illusion, you begin to see something extraordinary. You are not on the outside of the universe. You are the very center of it. You are part of the breath that moves galaxies and ripples through ocean. Think for a moment. Did you create your heartbeat? Did you consciously design your body, your mind, your voice, or the way your skin heals itself without your instruction? The very fact that you can close your eyes and feel presence proves that life is not happening to you. It is happening through you. You are not a visitor here. You are a part of the design just as much as the stars, the trees, the wind, and the silence between notes of music. To believe that you must fight the universe to get what you want is to forget who you are. It's like a wave believing it is separate from the ocean. How absurd it would be for a wave to try to reach the shore by swimming faster than the current. And yet, that's how most people live, trying to get ahead, as if the universe has placed them in a game where everything must be earned through exhaustion and panic. But here's the secret. The moment the wave realizes it is not merely riding the ocean, but is the ocean in motion, it no longer struggles. It surrenders, not in weakness, but in power. It begins to trust the direction, the ebb, the flow, and in doing so, it moves more swiftly, more effortlessly than it ever could by trying to direct itself. You, too, are not just a participant in this great dance of existence. You are the dance itself. You are the harmony pretending to be a person. You are the composer of your symphony, hidden behind the illusion of being a listener. So when you want something, whether it's peace, wealth, love, or purpose, why do you look outward and beg as though you are separate from the source of all things? Why do you panic, fearing that your desires may never come true, when the very act of desiring is proof that something within you already holds the seed of fulfillment? The oak does not wish to be an oak. It knows it already is. The acorn simply allows the process, breaks open, falls into darkness, and trusts the unfolding. Why then do you doubt your own becoming? Why do you think you must force your desires into existence? It is because you have forgotten your origin, your unity, your eternal belonging to the whole. But the moment you remember, even for a moment, the burden lifts. The anxiety dissolves. You no longer feel like you must do everything alone, because you realize you never were alone. The sky does not consult a calendar to rise at dawn. The river does not ask permission to flow. They move in perfect synchronicity with all things. And you, when you relax, when you breathe, when you allow your natural state to return, you too move in harmony. The right people appear. The ideas you need arrive. The opportunities align. Not because you chased them, but because you remembered your nature. This is why the universe responds so powerfully to presence. When you are fully present, you are no longer doubting, resisting, or separating yourself from what you desire. In that presence, you melt back into your original frequency, the frequency that creates worlds, that binds atoms, that expands galaxies. When you remember this, you stop begging and start allowing. You stop demanding and start receiving. It's not about trying harder. It's about trusting deeper. Think of the breath. When you inhale, you don't clutch it in fear. You let it go. And when you let go, the next breath comes. Life is the same. You cannot cling, chase, or hoard your way into wholeness. You remember your oneness by trusting that everything you need is already moving toward you the moment you stop pushing it away with resistance. And so, the moment you understand that you are not separate from the universe, the fear of lack disappears. The fear of being left behind vanishes. Because if you are the universe, then everything within it is already a part of you. There is no separation between your vibration and what it attracts. Your desires are not distant stars. They are internal signals waiting for alignment. And alignment only happens when you stop running and start resting into the truth. So when you see this, when these words find you, it is not coincidence. It is a message from your own soul. It is the part of you that never forgot, reminding the part of you that did. And once that remembrance settles in your being, your relationship with life changes. You are no longer the beggar at the gate of fortune. You are the gate, the key, and the fortune itself. Let that truth echo through every cell of your body. You are not waiting on the universe. It has been waiting on you. The greatest irony of life is that everything you desire already belongs to you the moment you stop chasing it. Stillness, not struggle, is the secret passage to fulfillment. But this goes against everything the world has taught you. From childhood you were told to try harder, to push through pain, to force things into place. Society has glorified effort, hustle, and the grind, convincing you that success is the reward of suffering. And so you keep running, always reaching for something just out of grasp, believing that if you just go faster or harder, one day you'll catch it. But what if the very act of chasing is what keeps it away? What if the noise within you is drowning out the signal the universe is constantly sending? There is a stillness available to you right now, a space between thoughts, a gentle awareness that sees without judging, hears without reacting, and knows without needing proof. In that stillness, you become receptive. Your mind softens, your energy aligns, and life begins to flow, not as a reward for your effort, but as a natural extension of your being. The tree doesn't grow by trying, the moon doesn't rise by ambition. They move, evolve, transform, all through surrender to what already is. When you let go of the obsession to make things happen, something remarkable occurs. Life begins to unfold in ways that defy logic. The right people call. Unexpected doors open. Answers arise without being forced. This isn't magic. It's alignment. And alignment happens when you stop interfering. You've probably noticed that the more desperate you are to attract something, the more it slips away. That's not the universe being cruel. It's the universe mirroring your internal resistance. When you radiate lack, you attract more reasons to feel lack. When you radiate ease, you invite abundance. Stillness is not the same as doing nothing. Stillness is a presence that says, I trust. It's not laziness or passivity. It's the highest form of spiritual intelligence. It's knowing when to act and when to rest. It's listening more than speaking. It's watching the unfolding without trying to yank the flower open before it's ready to bloom. Stillness is not weakness. In fact, it is the strongest thing in existence. The sky never moves, yet everything moves within it. Water yields, but it carves through rock. The power of stillness is that it allows, and in allowing, it transcends. You might be tempted to ask, but if I don't try, how will I succeed? This is the misunderstanding. Stillness does not mean the absence of action. It means the absence of forced action. It means you don't run blindly just because you feel behind. You act from inspiration, not desperation. When the mind is still, your next step becomes obvious. You feel it rather than calculate it, and that's when your actions carry power, grace, and magnetism. People are drawn to those who are calm. Situations respond better to a grounded spirit than a chaotic one. The universe speaks most clearly to a quiet mind. When you're still, you hear the whisper behind the noise. That whisper is your intuition, your divine compass. But in a world that praises volume, we've forgotten how to listen. We're trained to shout, to market ourselves, to hustle constantly, to be loud just to be noticed. But true power doesn't need to scream. The sun doesn't beg to be seen, it rises. And everything responds. You must rise the same way, not through noise, but through presence. In stillness, the ego falls away. The need to prove, impress, or control dissolves. What's left is your essence, that part of you that never doubted, never feared, never questioned whether you were enough. In that space, your desires return to you, not because you earned them through suffering, but because you finally made space for them to land. You stopped blocking the blessing with your anxiety. You stopped pushing it away with your disbelief. Think of stillness like a clear pond. When you throw a stone into it, the ripples move outward in perfect harmony. But if the water is already chaotic and stormy, even the most beautiful ripple goes unnoticed. Your life is the same. If your inner world is filled with panic, fear, and tension, you miss the subtle nudges from the universe. But when you calm the waters of your mind, you notice everything. The signals, the synchronicities, the opportunities that were always there but hidden in the noise. The world tells you that you must hustle to survive. The universe tells you that you must align to thrive. You've tried the former, haven't you? You've burned yourself out trying to be everywhere, do everything, please everyone. And what did it give you? Perhaps a few fleeting moments of success, followed by even deeper emptiness. But alignment brings a joy that doesn't fade, a peace that doesn't depend on circumstances, a knowing that says, what is mine cannot miss me. So if you're tired, if you're wondering why it's not working, maybe the answer is not to try harder, but to become still, to return to your breath, to feel the ground beneath your feet, and remember, you are already part of the great unfolding. Your life is not behind. Your purpose is not lost. Your blessings are not delayed. They are all waiting for the stillness within you to return, so they can enter. Stillness is not the end of the journey. It is the space where the journey begins. From there, everything else flows, not by force, but by grace. Not by willpower, but by divine timing. And when that happens, you will look back and laugh at all the times you thought you had to control what was already yours. Reality does not respond to your panic. It responds to your inner state, to the quiet and often unconscious signals you're constantly sending into the fabric of existence. Most people live their entire lives trying to control the external world while remaining completely unaware of the energy they're radiating from within. They stress, they worry, they fear, and then they wonder why their lives reflect more chaos than clarity. They think it's just bad luck, poor timing, or misfortune. But the truth is far more profound and far more empowering. Life mirrors your state of being. What you carry inside is echoed outside, not because the universe is punishing or rewarding you, but because it simply reflects what you are being, not what you are pretending or saying. You see, the universe doesn't understand language the way humans do. It doesn't care what you say you want. It doesn't listen to your desperate affirmations while you vibrate with fear. It responds to your vibration, your frequency, the energetic signature of your being. That's why someone who says, I am abundant, but feels deep lack, will continue to attract scarcity, and someone who never utters a word, but moves with quiet confidence and peace, will begin to receive without even asking. This is not magic. This is resonance. When you tune an instrument to the right frequency, the entire room begins to vibrate with that tone. Your life does the same. When your inner state is calm, clear, and grounded, the outer world becomes a gentle companion. Events align. People show up with solutions. You feel carried by life rather than attacked by it. But when your inner world is chaotic, even the simplest tasks become mountains. Doors that should open stay closed. Conversations misfire. You feel like you're swimming upstream, no matter how hard you try. And then the frustration grows, anxiety follows. You begin to believe that the world is against you, that things never work out. But it isn't the world. It's the frequency you're broadcasting. You are not being punished. You are simply getting feedback. This is why true transformation never begins with changing your job, your partner, your city, or your income. It begins with changing your state. And the good news is, that's the one thing you always have control over. You can't control the wind, but you can adjust your sail. You can't force others to change, but you can shift how you feel inside. That shift sends a ripple across the surface of your life. Sometimes it happens so quickly that people call it a miracle. But it isn't. It's resonance finally working in your favor. When you live in a constant state of anxiety, it's like tuning your radio to a station filled with static. You can't hear the music that's playing in the background. You can't receive the guidance that's trying to reach you. But when you still yourself, when you relax into trust, the noise clears. Suddenly you hear things you couldn't hear before. You sense opportunities that were invisible before. People begin to treat you differently, not because they've changed, but because your energy has. Your mind is not the only thing that thinks. Your energy thinks, your heart thinks, your being transmits even when your mouth is silent. That's why presence is more powerful than persuasion. Have you ever been around someone who didn't say much, but their peace made you feel safe? That's not coincidence. That's frequency. That's someone who has learned how to master their inner state and allow the world to follow suit. It's important to realize that this shift does not require you to fix every flaw or erase every doubt. You're human. You'll have emotions. You'll feel fear. But the key is not to drown in those emotions. The key is to observe them and return to stillness anyway. The more you practice being centered, the more natural it becomes. Eventually, your baseline becomes peace. And from that place, your desires no longer feel like distant dreams. They feel like memories returning. You've likely noticed that when you're joyful, relaxed, and not obsessing over outcomes, things just seem to work. A solution appears. An email comes in. A person reaches out. It feels magical, but it's not magic. It's you aligning with the rhythm of life. In those moments, you're not trying to force reality. You're flowing with it. And because your state is harmonious, reality responds in harmony. But the moment you slip into fear, control, or impatience, the flow becomes disrupted. You try to make things happen. You grip. You demand. And the more you push, the more it pushes back. This is not punishment, it's feedback. Life is saying, this frequency does not match what you're asking for. And so nothing moves. Or worse, it moves in the wrong direction. This is why cultivating your inner state is not a luxury. It is the foundation of everything. Your job is not to hustle harder, to stress more, or to exhaust yourself chasing dreams. Your job is to become a match for what you desire. If you want peace, become peaceful. If you want abundance, feel abundant. If you want love, radiate love. The universe cannot resist a clear signal, but it cannot deliver to someone whose signal is filled with doubt, panic, and confusion. So ask yourself, not what you want, but who you're being. What are you radiating when no one is watching? What do you truly believe when it's silent at night? That's what life is responding to. And that's what you have the power to shift. Not by pretending, not by forcing, but by becoming, by sitting with yourself long enough to feel your own energy. And choosing moment by moment to return to trust. When you begin to live this way, a calm confidence begins to replace your old fear. You don't need to chase. You don't need to prove. You don't need to beg the universe to notice you. It already sees you. But it is waiting for you to align, to step into the version of you that already has what you're asking for. Not tomorrow, not after you fix yourself. Now. Everything changes when your inner state changes. Because life doesn't give you what you want, it gives you what you are. You don't need to force anything to bloom, just align with your nature. The tree does not push its branches out in desperation. The flower does not scream its way into full bloom. The sun does not rise by command or by effort. All of nature follows a divine rhythm, a sacred order that requires no struggle, only surrender to what it already is. But humans, conditioned by systems that glorify control, have forgotten this truth. We try to rush, to compete, to shape life into what we think it should be, and in doing so, we disconnect from the very nature that could effortlessly bring everything we seek. From the moment we are born, we are taught to perform, to achieve, to measure up, to outdo. We grow up hearing, you must work hard to succeed. Nothing comes easy. You have to earn your place. These ideas, repeated often enough, form the architecture of our identity. And so we begin to believe that our value is in what we can produce, that our worth is tied to how much we hustle. We start treating ourselves like machines that must be optimized, controlled, and scheduled into progress. But we are not machines. We are beings. Organic, emotional, intuitive, spiritual. We are part of nature. And just like nature, we are most powerful when we align rather than force. There is a quiet wisdom that exists within you. You feel it when you're at peace, when you stop thinking, when you let go of needing to fix or change yourself. That inner voice does not shout. It whispers. It doesn't demand. It gently pulls you toward what feels right, what feels alive. But when your life becomes a race, when you force yourself into roles and routines that don't resonate with who you truly are, you lose connection with that voice. You begin to live by default instead of design. Forcing bloom before its season leads to exhaustion. You may see temporary results, but they come at the cost of your joy, your health, your spirit. That's not success. That's survival. And you were not born to survive, you were born to thrive. And thriving only happens when you live in harmony with your nature. When your actions stem from alignment, not from fear. When your path unfolds because it reflects who you are, not because you pushed yourself down someone else's road, hoping to be accepted or praised. Look at the seasons. Each has its purpose. Winter is not a failure of spring. It's a necessary stillness, a time when things rest, restore, gather energy for what's to come. And yet, we treat our own winters, our quiet periods, our pauses, our moments of uncertainty, as if they are wrong. We panic when we are not constantly growing, constantly producing, but nature doesn't panic. It trusts the cycle. It allows for rest. It knows that stillness is not death. It's preparation. The same is true for you. Your nature is not something to fight, it's something to remember. Deep down you already know what brings you joy, you know what brings you peace, you know what gives your life meaning. But you've been trained to ignore it. You've been told that your instincts are not enough, that you need plans, strategies, and backup strategies. That's why so many people climb ladders of success only to find they're leaning against the wrong wall. They arrive but feel empty because they forced something that was never in alignment to begin with. When you align with your nature, your energy becomes magnetic. You stop chasing and things begin to find you. Opportunities flow with ease. People resonate with your authenticity. You no longer need to convince anyone of your value because your presence speaks louder than your performance ever could. You radiate a quiet confidence, the kind that comes not from external validation, but from internal knowing. And that knowing only emerges when you're not pretending to be someone you're not. There's nothing more powerful than a person who is deeply in tune with their own rhythm. Someone who has learned to honor their energy, who knows when to move and when to rest, who listens to their intuition even when it goes against logic or expectation. That kind of alignment creates momentum without burnout. It brings results without resistance. It produces fruit without force. The question is not, how can I make this happen, but is this in harmony with who I am? If the answer is yes, then the path will reveal itself with clarity, and if the answer is no, then no amount of struggle will make it satisfying. When something is right for you, it won't require you to betray your soul to achieve it. It will stretch you, yes. It may challenge you, but it will align with you. You will feel expanded, not depleted. This doesn't mean you won't need effort, but the effort won't feel like suffering. It will feel like flow, like momentum gathering naturally, like water moving downstream, pulled by gravity, not pushed by force. You will be working with life, not against it. And that's the difference between forced success and aligned success. One drains you, the other fills you. So if something in your life feels like constant resistance, if you are always exhausted, always anxious, always chasing, pause, breathe, ask yourself, am I forcing this? Or is this truly who I am? The answer may be uncomfortable, but it will be liberating, because once you stop forcing and start aligning, life begins to cooperate. Things that once felt impossible start unfolding with grace. You were never meant to bloom by breaking yourself. You were meant to unfold naturally, gently, in rhythm with your soul. And when you live that way, honoring your energy, trusting your timing, and walking your own path, there is no limit to what you can receive. Because the universe always supports what is true. It always amplifies what is aligned, and it always delivers to those who trust the process more than the plan. So stop trying to be the flower